Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Murshid bin Azmi, metric number 1190772. Today, I will present about the legal aspects of e-commerce in Malaysia. First of all, I will talk about the introduction or the overview. Online trade transaction, or in its current and commonly used term e-commerce, broadly refers to commercial activity conducted with the aid of electronic devices. E-commerce generally refers to electronic business transactions or trades which are wholly or partially conducted over the internet. As e-commerce grows and becomes a more viable and to a certain extent safer medium of shopping or trading, it is an industry that requires a strong regulatory framework in order to ensure, among others, accountability and consumer protection. This presentation intends to explore the legislative framework surrounding e-commerce in Malaysia and the extent to which it regulates online businesses and protect consumers' interests. Next, we move to the objective. There are two objectives of this presentation. The first one is to know the relevant laws that related to e-commerce, and the second one is to know the legality and scope of e-commerce in Malaysia. Now, we move to the relevant laws. The relevant laws governing e-commerce transactions in Malaysia are: the first one, Electronic Commerce Act 2006. The second one, Consumer Protection Act 1999. The primary legislation on consumer protection in commercial activities including e-commerce. The third one, Consumer Protection Electronic Trade Transactions Regulation 2012. The regulation issued pursuant to the CPA 1999, which prescribed a set of requirements to be added to and complied with by e-commerce traders. The fourth one is Contracts Act 1950, which governs contracts in Malaysia. And the last one is Sale of Goods Act 1957, which governs the sale of goods in Malaysia. Besides, e-commerce is also subject to other legislation, including first one, Computer Crime Act 1997. Next, Digital Signature Act 1997, which regulates the use of digital signatures. Third, Personal Data Protection Act 2010, which protects data and information collected from consumers by traders from unauthorized use, for example, without the consumer's consent. Fourth, Trade Description Act 2011, which deal with, among others, an advertisement. Next, Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act 2011, which generally deals with price display and product labeling. And the last one is Weights and Measures Act 1972, which deals with weighting and measuring processes. Now, we move to the legality and scope of e-commerce. E-commerce is a valid and legally recognized medium of trade transaction by the Electronic Commerce Act 2006. Pursuant to Section 7 of the ECA 2006, a contract formed in accordance with the Contract Act 1950 through electronic communication is valid, binding, and enforceable by and on the contracting parties. For this purpose, Section 9 of the same legislation recognizes electronic signature, for example, signature executed via electronic means in accordance therewith, including digital signature frame pursuant to the requirements under the Digital Signature Act 1997. The Consumer Protection Regulations 2012 governs two groups of persons. The first one, e-commerce traders, who are doing business through personal websites or websites provided and maintained by e-commerce market operators. The second one is e-commerce market operators, who provide websites for e-commerce traders such as Mudah.my, Lazada, and also Shopee. Next, we move to the Consumer Protection Regulation 2012. For the e-commerce traders, Regulation 3(1) provides that every e-commerce trader shall disclose the following information on the websites where the business is conducted. First, his name or the name of his business or company. Second, the registration number of the business or company. Third, his email address and telephone number. Fourth, a description of characteristic of the goods or services. Fifth, the full price of the goods or services including transportation costs, taxes and any other costs. Next, the method of payment, the terms and condition, and then the estimated time of delivery of the goods or services to the consumers. For the e-commerce market operators, Regulation 5(1) provides that every e-commerce market operator shall keep and maintain a record of the names, telephone numbers and address of the e-commerce traders for a period of 2 years. Second, Regulation 5(2) states that e-commerce market operator who fails to comply with the requirement under Regulation 5(1) commits an offence. Next, we move to the last part of the legality and scope of e-commerce. Any person who commits an offence under the CP Regulations 2012 shall be liable upon conviction to the following. The first one is the first instant offence. For the individual, fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or both. For the corporate, fine not exceeding 100,000 ringgit. The second one is the subsequent offence. For the individual, fine not exceeding 100,000 ringgit or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or both. For the corporate, fine not exceeding 200,000 ringgit. And the last part is the continuing offence, which is after conviction. For the both group, either individual or corporate, they will have additional fine not exceeding 1,000 ringgit for each day or part of the day. Now, we move to the last part of the presentation, which is discussion and conclusion. As e-commerce is still developing, the legislation already in place are still not comprehensive and require further development to suit and cater to the needs of the market and its participants at the material time. Perhaps, in addition to amending the existing legislation to solidify and modernize the same, new legislation may be enacted to further strengthen the current set of legislation contemporaneous with the development and expansion of e-commerce in Malaysia. In the foreseeable future, it is predicted that e-commerce will become an equally popular alternative to face-to-face trade transactions for the consumer to do their shopping and for the traders to conduct their businesses due to its practicality, convenience and accessibility. And that's all from me. Thank you.